Hi everyone, good afternoon. I hope you guys are well, safe, and having a good week. So next week we will have our spring break, and I hope you are going to have a nice break, although you will be working, I'm sure, on many projects and on many assignments. So good luck with that. And I will be available during this week. So if you need to meet with me, I will be available. If you need some help with your individual project or something, I'll be more than happy to meet with you guys and work with you. Okay. A couple of announcements before we start the class, as always. The first is please be working on your individual project and your group project. Okay. Once we come back from the break, the time is very limited. So please make sure you spend as much time as you can working on these projects. The second thing is right after the break, on Tuesday after the break, we are going to have our second midterm exam. Okay. So our second midterm exam will be on the Tuesday right after the break. So is everyone okay with this? Will anyone be returning late from the break? Okay. Anyway, if you have any issues with this, let me know. Right. Anyway, the best way to prepare for the midterm exam, the second midterm, is by doing your individual project. Okay. And the mock exam or the sample exam that you will see in week 10. Okay. So if you want to prepare for the midterm, please go through the sample exam and the individual project. If you do both of them well, then I promise you, you will get a good grade, a very good grade on the exam. Okay. You have everything set up and everything ready for you guys. Just do your part and don't worry about the exam. Okay. Again, the exam will be on that Tuesday right after the break. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, good. Right. So like last week, I have prepared a very small quiz, and you guys can take it in week 9. It's called week 9 quiz. It's 3 questions only, and it will not harm your grade. So it will be added to the lowest grade that you will have in your exams. This is something to help you with your total grade. Okay, so go ahead and do it. I'll give you 5 minutes starting now to go and answer the questions in the quiz, and then we will start our course. Go ahead. Okay, it's in week 9. Week 9 quiz is the name, or class 9 quiz. Mila, we are working on the week 9 quiz. Okay, so go to class 9, and then you have week 9 quiz. Please solve it. You have 5 minutes to do it.
Thank you.
Okay. If anyone has come in late, we are working on week 8 quiz now. 1 minute and we'll start. All right. So let's start then. Okay. So last week we covered input and output of a computer program. Okay. So I'm going to share the whiteboard just to remind you of the structure of the program, what we covered, and what we will cover today. Okay. So we said that a program typically consists of 3 parts. The first part is the input part. This is where we get input from the user or from an Excel file. We looked at the input box, right? And we looked at the range to get input from the user, and we looked at the range dot value to get input from an Excel file. Then comes the processing of the data. So whatever whatever the data we have from the input phase, we process this data. So data processing. Okay, this is like adding up numbers and stuff like that. And we saw some examples last week. And finally, we have the output, which is presenting the results of our data processing. And we looked at 2 functions. We looked at message box, and we looked at range function, right? And we said that variables connect these parts together. So we have to put our inputs into variables and then use these variables for processing and for presenting the output of our program or the result of our program. Okay. Today we are going to focus on this area in the middle. We will be focusing on the data processing, right? Okay. Now, data processing, when you do a program like the programs we did last week, the programs are executed sequentially. They are completed in sequence, right? You start at the very first line, and then you go to the next line, next line, next line, until you finish the whole program. However, there are some circumstances when we want to modify the flow of the program. We don't want to go sequentially on the program. We want to jump from one place to another inside the program. And therefore, in computer programming in general, in all programming languages, we have some things called control structures. Okay, control structures are some vocabulary and grammar that we will learn today. And this vocabulary and grammar, these functions or these statements are used to control the flow of code where we are going to execute next. Okay. There are many types of control structures in programming. The 2 most common structures are the if function, and hopefully you saw some examples on this, and the loops. Okay. The if function changes the execution of the program based on a condition, right? It's very similar to the if function in Excel, right? You check for a condition. If it is true, you do something. If it is false, you do something else. Okay, this is the if function. So this changes program flow, program based on condition. Okay, the loops are a different structure. The loops repeat 1 or more statements. Okay. So if you want to revisit the same statement, if you want to execute the statement again and again and again, we use the loops. Okay. And we have two different types of loops, and we will go through them today. Okay. Any questions, guys, before we start with examples? Does anyone have any question in any of these structures or in the program structure overall? Any questions? All right. Okay. So the best way to explain these things is to work through some examples, and we will examine the structures together. I will talk about the tricks and issues that may face you, and let's start. Right? Okay. Right, so I'm going to share my screen now, and I will open Excel first and then share my screen. Okay. Right. So let's do the following program. Okay. The program I will show you is a very famous game that is one of the oldest games that we played. Right. So this game is called The Secret Number. Okay. What is this secret number? You are going to start by setting up or setting a secret number in your code. Okay. So you will say that my secret number is 7, my secret number is 9, my secret number is whatever you want to put. Okay. From 1, let's make it easier, to 20. Okay. And then ask the user to guess the number. Okay. And then if the guess is greater than the secret number, display the message too big. Okay. If the guess is less than the secret number, display the message too small. Otherwise, display, you guessed it. Okay. So this is a very simple game. We are going to set some secret number in our code, and then we will ask the user to guess this number. Okay. If the user guesses it right, then you guessed it. Otherwise, we will display different messages depending on the value the user entered. Do you guys understand this program, the concept of this program? All right. Is it clear to everyone? All right.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So now let's develop this code. So I will go to developer. I will record a macro. I will call this macro secret number. Okay. And then I press OK, and we'll stop recording immediately. Okay. So now I will be able to see the code, right? Next, I will go to Visual. Before I go to Visual Basic, I need to think about what kind of data do I need in my program. What is the data we are using here, guys? We are using what data? What is the data that you will be using in this code?
1 through 20.
Yes, it's called what? Okay, so the variable that will represent the numbers from 1 to 20, what will it be? The secret number, right? The secret number is one variable we will be using to store our secret value. What else? What other variables do we need here?
An integer?
It's an integer. Yes, it is an integer. But do we only need one variable, or do we need other variables? The variable is used to store the data. What is the data we need here? We need the secret number. This is one piece of data, the secret number that we will store in our code. And The second piece of data we will need is the guess of the user, right? The user is going to guess a value, and then we also have the secret number. So we have two pieces of data right here. One is a secret number, and the other one is the guess of the user, right? So we need two variables, one variable to represent the secret number and another to represent the guess, right? So let's go to Visual Basic, modules, module 1, okay? And then we will start our code, right? So the first step is to define our variables, right? As you guys said, they are integers, right? Whole numbers from 1 to 20. So these are integers. So I will start creating two integers, dim, int secret as integer, okay? And then I will create the user guess. So dim int guess as integer as well, okay? So I created two variables to hold my two pieces of data, the secret and the guess, right? And then the program tells me set a secret number to set your secret number from 1 to 20. So I need to do this in my code, right? So we are doing it step by step. So how do we do this? We're going to say int secret is equal to, let's say, 9. Okay. So here I'm setting I will add some comments here, guys, so you know what's going on. Okay. So setting my secret number. Okay. Right. And then I'm going to ask the user to input their guess. So what function can we use to get input from the user? Don't worry, we just talked about that last week. So what is the function that we use to get input from the user?
The input box?
Yes, thank you, Brandy. That's right. So we need to use an input box to get the guess from the user, right? So input box is enter your guess, okay? Right? And now I told you an input box like this is useless because the user will enter some data and this data will be lost. So we have to put the input box into a variable. So we need to do it like this: int guess equals input box, please enter your guess. So whatever number the user is going to enter is going to be saved inside the variable called int guess. Okay, so this is getting users input. Okay, now we want to go to the processing. If you go to check the processing here, guys, the processing part, we are checking the number of the guess versus the number in the secret number. We are checking them against each other using the if statement. So let's do the if statement together, right? So checking the guess versus the versus the secret number. Okay, we do it with an if function. So to write the if function, we do an if. Okay, if like we did before. Okay, and then the first condition here says if the guess is greater than the secret number, display too big. Okay, so if the guess is greater than the secret number, right, then okay, so this is how we write an if function. If, the word if followed by our condition, and then the word then. Okay, and then on the next line, what will we do if this condition is true? So what will happen if int guess is greater than int secret? We are going to display to the user too big. So what function do we use to present output to the user, to present this message to the user?
Too big.
I'm sorry?
The message will be too
I
big.
didn't get it. Yes, the message is too big. What function, what VBA function do we use to show this message?
Message box.
Yes, exactly, Rahman. Excellent. Yes. So if this is the case, then we are going to display a message box saying too big. Okay. Right? Okay, so this is the first condition. The second condition is we are checking if this test fails. So if int guess is not greater than int secret, then we need to check another condition. How do we do this? Using the else if statement, right? So if the guess is greater than the secret, then message box too big. Else if the guess is less than the secret, then we will display another message box saying too small. Okay. Right. Everyone following, guys? Any questions so far? Okay. Now, these are the first two conditions. If the guess is greater than the stored secret number, then we will display the value, the message saying too big. If the guess is less than the secret, then we'll display the message too small. The only remaining condition is if the guess and the secret are equal, right? We checked if they are greater, less than. The only remaining thing is if they are equal. So I will use an else, just an else without anything else. I will display a message box saying, you guessed it. And then end if. Okay. At the very end of the if function, after you are done with if, else, we need to put end if to tell the VBA that this is the end of our if function. Okay. Don't forget this. This is one of the things that many people forget. So please don't forget the end if function. And that's it. This is everything in the code, right? I'll give you a minute to complete it, and if you haven't done it, written this code, please go ahead and write it, right? And then we will run it and discuss the result together. And then I'll have some questions to you.
Do we need to end if 2 times?
No, just once. So this whole statement is called an if statement, right? Everything up till the else is the same statement. So you only need one end if at the end.
Yeah, the
Okay.
else if, like the second one, it doesn't count, like if and then else if.
Yes. So this is part of the if statement, right? This is part of the
Okay.
if statement. So there is no else if without an if. You cannot put an else if without an if first. So
Okay.
you need only one end if for the if at the very top.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay. Are you ready, guys, to run it, or is anyone still writing the code?
I have not writing it. I'm writing it right now.
You're running it?
I'm writing it right now.
Okay, take your time. I'll give you another minute. Right, until Rahman is done, guys, again, a reminder that this is a programming language. The word language here is key. So there is no shortcut. You need to learn the vocabulary and the grammar of this language. Vocabulary includes things like input boxes, message boxes, range, the if function, and so on. The grammar includes how to write this vocabulary, how to use the vocabulary. So how to write the if statement. This is grammar, okay? If you learn these basics, then grammar becomes fun, but there is no way you can speak a language without knowing the vocabulary and grammar of this language. There is no way. So please, you learn it by experience, I guess, by doing lots of coding examples. And we will do lots of coding examples. Now, does anyone have any logical problems with this, anything in this flow that you don't understand, guys, so I can re-explain it if you have an issue. Okay, perfect. All right, so let's run this and see, right? So our secret number here, guys, is 9. Okay, so my secret number here is 9. So I'm going to run this code. Please enter your guess. Let's put 12, for example, which is greater than 9. So I should get the message too big. Okay, too big. Run it one more time. Let's put 7, which is less than 9. Too small. Nice. Run it one more time. Let's put 9. You guessed it. So everything is working fine. Okay. So try it and let me know if you didn't, if you got the wrong answer or if you got an error. Okay. Did it work for everyone? Any issues?
What were we supposed to get for 9? The correct, you guess correct?
You guessed that. Whatever, it doesn't matter. The message should say that you guessed the right number. Whatever, it depends however you want to write it. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It's a message book. It's a message, right? It doesn't matter what's inside the message, as long as the user will understand its meaning. That's okay. All right. So, does anyone have any comments on this program, on this slice, on this game? This is supposed to be a game, so you write it, you share it with your friends, and they try to guess the number, and you tell them, I wrote this program. Does anyone have any comments on this program? Think about it. Imagine that you are going to a store, or one of your friends will hand you over this program to play with. He will tell you, use this game. This is a very nice game. Go ahead and play with it. What would you think about this game?
There's no second chance.
There's no.
Like you can't, the user can't guess the second time.
Yes, that's a good one. Thank you so much. This is a very boring game, right? Because the user gets only one chance to guess the number. I have to run the program each time I want to guess the number. So this is my first time, so I will enter 10, and then too big, and that's it. The program stops, and I have to run the program again, right? To try to enter another number, and so on and so forth, right? So what's happening here, guys, is this is very boring. Why it's boring? Because you only get one chance to enter the number. If you get it wrong, it's wrong. You have to restart the program from scratch, and no one likes that, right? If you play any kind of game, you expect to have multiple opportunities to find the right number, right? Do you understand the problem here, guys? The problem is the user only gets one chance to enter the correct number. Okay, so the question is then, how can we repeat asking the user to re-enter the number until he gets the number right? What kind of programming structure or control structure can we use to repeat the process until the user gets the right number? Loops, right? Loops are the control structure we use to repeat the statement or more, right? Right. So let's talk about loops, and then we will apply to the same example. Okay. So I'm going again to share a whiteboard, and let's talk about loops for a minute. Okay. when we are doing loops, there are two cases for using loops. The first case is we know how many times to repeat the statement. Okay, so this is the first condition. We know how many times to repeat the statement. So if I ask you, for example, to write the number one 5 times. Okay, this is, you know how many times you want to write number 1, right? We want to write it 5 times, and therefore we know how many times we want to repeat the message box or the code, right? The second example is we do not know how many times to repeat the statement, right? For example, if I ask you to, for example, if I ask you to go through or keep entering a number until you enter a specific number. Okay, so I don't know how many times you will keep trying until you enter the right number, right? You can try it for 1 time, you can try it for 2 times, you can do it for 100 times until you enter the specific number, right? So I do not know how many times you need to keep trying until you enter the right number. Okay, for the first type of loops, this is called a for loop, and we'll talk more about that. We'll show examples of that in a few minutes. Called for next loop. Okay, right? So if we know how many times we want to repeat a statement or more, we use the for next loop. If we want to do a statement and we don't know how many times we should repeat this statement, we use something called the do while loop. Okay, right? So in the example that we have here, in the secret number example, which kind of loop we'll be using? We will be using the for loop or the do while loop. In the example, we want our user to keep trying to enter the correct number until she enters the right number. So that can happen in in the first try. It can happen after 5. It can happen after 100 trials, right? So do we know how many times the user is going to try to enter the number?
No, that
Would it
would
be
be
the do while?
No.
Yes. So we use the do while. Why? Because this is trial and error. You can try for a million times, or you can get it right from the first time, right? So we do the do while loop. So how does the do while loop work? Okay. The do while loop repeats a statement until or while a certain condition is met, right? So I can do it like this. Do. This is not coding. This is just English, right? Do. Okay. Enter. The number while the number is not equal to 9. Okay. Okay. So I can say do repeat, keep doing, entering the number while the number is not equal to 9. So as long as the number is not equal to 9, keep entering the number, another number. Okay, so this is how we do it. Do, and then after do, what action or what statements should we repeat, right? And then while, and then the condition. Okay, so we will keep doing this statement while a condition is met. As long as this condition is met, then we will keep entering this number. Okay, So let's do this in our code. Let's try this same idea in our code. So I will go back to my code, right? And I want to change this and make my code repeats until the user enters the right number. So I'm going to go to my Excel, and I'm going to create a new macro. I will call it secret number 2, for example. Secret number 2. And then press OK and stop recording. Okay. And then we go to Visual Basic. Okay. I will be using the same variables and same everything. So I'm just going to copy the same code from the previous example. So from, okay, I'm not sharing my screen. Can you guys see my screen, or you see the whiteboard?
The whiteboard.
Okay. So let me share my screen now. Okay. So I created a new variable, a new macro called secret number 2, and I'm going to copy the code from secret number into secret number 2. I will just copy the code starting from dim all the way until the end if. Okay. Copy. And then I will insert it between the sub and end sub. Remember, all code must go between sub and end sub. Okay. Now let's play around with it, right? So everything up till int secret is equal to 9 is okay, right? Now I'm going to delete this if statement. I will delete this whole if statement until the end if. So I deleted everything starting from if all the way to end if. Okay. Right. So here the user is going to guess a number, right? Now he can guess it either right or wrong. Okay. Let's say that he is going to guess the number in wrong way, right? So how do I ask him to keep entering the number? I do it like this, okay? At the very beginning, I'm asking the user to enter the number. This is the first trial for entering the secret number. Then I will say do. Okay. Int guess is equal to input box. Okay. Until or while. Okay. Int guess is not equal to int secret. Okay. Right. So what will happen here is the user is going to try and enter the keep trying to enter the guess until he gets the right answer. Okay. And at the end, we'll display a message box saying you guessed it right. Okay. So okay, so here we are going to start by getting the guess, and then inside the do we will keep trying to enter the guess until the user gets it right. As long as the user does not enter the guess correctly, then we'll just keep asking the user for the new number. Okay, we can get rid of this. That's okay. Okay, right. So we have a do, and then the variable int guess is equal to input box. Please enter your guess, right? We'll keep asking this question until the user gets it right. If the user gets it right, then we'll display the message box, you guessed it right. As long as the user is not getting it correctly, we'll keep asking him the same question. Okay. Do you guys get the logic here, guys? Do. And then we put whatever statements we want. And then while, as long as a certain condition is met. Okay, our condition here is that the user guess is not the same as our secret. Okay. Now, if I run this code, while without, okay, sorry. This is until, not while. Come on. Right. So this is the problem when you know so many programming languages. Each programming language has its own way to write the do while or do until loop. Okay. Right. So I can do it like this. Do while. Okay. And this is not equal to end secret. Okay. And then at the very end, we write loop. Okay. So this is the right way in Visual Basic to do it, right? What I just wrote is completely different programming language. This is the problem of knowing a zillion programming language. So again, let me explain the logic again. Do while as long as int guess is not equal to the secret, then we will ask the user to enter their guess again, right? And we'll keep doing that until there is a match between the guess and the secret. And when this happens, we'll display a message box saying you guessed it right. Okay. So let's run it and then we will modify it in a minute, right? So let's run this code and see, right? So I will enter 12. Again, please enter your guess 13, 15, 9. You guessed it right. Okay. Again, guys, the do while loop. We write do while, right? And then the condition, right? And then in the next statement or in the next line, what statement do we want to repeat doing? And then loop, right? But this is not exactly like the first example. This is a simpler example because I'm not checking if the value entered by the user is less than or greater than the secret number. So I can modify this here if I want to, but I want to keep things simple. So I will just focus on the do while for now, and we'll do it in another program, right? So I want to keep things simple, so we'll simplify our program. We'll just keep asking the user to enter the correct number until she gets it right. Is this structure clear for you guys? Okay. Again, I want you to notice here, we don't know how many times it will take the user to enter the correct number. So I can run it just from the first time. You get it right, and that's it. Or I can keep trying for a zillion times. I can keep trying for whatever number I want, right? Until I guess it right. Okay. So you use the do while loop if we don't know how many times we want to repeat the statement inside this loop. Okay. Are you ready to practice? Okay. So now let's do an example that you guys get to do yourselves. Okay. So we are going to modify the secret number into a password program. Okay. So we are going to create a password program. Okay. In this password, you are going to, number one, very similar to the example on the top, very similar. Okay. Number one, set a secret password in your code. Okay. Number two, ask the user to enter the password. And then repeat the following. Okay. If, okay, or keep asking the user to enter the password until she gets it right. Okay. And then for let or tell the user she entered the correct password. Okay, so this is very similar to the secret number example, but this time it's a password. So the variable type is a string, not a number. Okay, so here we are using a string, not a number. Okay, so this is very similar to the secret number code, but it requires words, not numbers. Okay, so go ahead and try to do it yourselves, guys. So you can use the same code. Okay, very similar to the code we just wrote, very similar to this example. Okay, but you need to do some modifications. So go ahead and try to do it. Okay, I will leave the logic for you. Just follow the logic exactly as it is. Follow the logic and you should be okay. If you get an error or if you have any issues, I am right here. Please ask for help. She's How's it going, everyone? Any problems? Give you a few more minutes and then we will do it. But please try, guys, please try. It's very similar to the example we just did. Okay. But use a string instead of an integer. You need to note the variable type here. Once you are done, run the code, make sure it's running. If you have an error, that's okay. Is anyone still working on this program, guys, or are you done? Is anyone still working? Is everyone done?
I'm still working on it. I'm almost
Okay.
done.
Okay, take your time. That's okay. That's good. Take your time.
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Kyle.
So I did it and then I'm running it and I'm
Mhm.
entering in the password, but it
Mhm.
keeps showing up the same password box.
Okay.
And then I can't check my code because it's locked now, even though I'm entering the code in.
Yes.
So what do I do?
Okay. So I was hoping that doesn't happen to any of you. All right. You have to quit Excel. So you have to right-click Excel and quit it from here. Right click and then close all windows. Keep trying to do this until you are able to close to close Excel.
Close all windows?
Yes.
Okay.
And I will tell you the problem. And this is great that this error happened, guys, because this is a great one of the errors that are very common and one of the most frustrating errors you can ever get in coding, right? So I will explain this error and how to avoid it. Okay. Were you able to close your file?
No, it's not closing. Oh,
Okay.
never mind. It did. It did.
Okay. You do it several times until it closes. So you can
Okay.
keep doing it until it closes.
Okay.
Right?
And then do I reopen it again?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Of course, your code will be lost. But I will share my file with you guys so everyone has the code. So after the class, I will share this file with everyone. All right. Rahman, were you able to close your file?
Yeah, I saved it first and then I closed it.
Okay, good. So now let's see, let's do it together and let's look at the problems that may happen. Okay. Right. So I'm going to start recording a macro. I will call this password 1 because there will be a password 2 soon. Okay. Okay, and then stop recording, right? And then I will go back to my Visual Basic. This is my code, and I will start writing it very similar to the secret number code. So it's very similar. So I will start by dim, but this time it's a string because a password can be anything. It can be characters, it can be letters, numbers, anything, right? So it has to be a string. So I will call it str secret as string. Okay, and then dim str password as string. Okay, so these are the two variables. Like here I have a secret number and a guess for the user. Same thing here, I have a secret for the secret password stored in my code and a password for the user guess. Okay, and then I'm going to set my secret. Okay, I will set my secret by saying str secret is going to be equal to anything we want. Let's say business 308, for example. Okay, so this is our secret code. So the user, in order for the user to enter the file or to use the file, she or he needs to enter this value, business 308. Okay, so this is my secret. And then in the next step is ask the user for a password. Okay, right? So I will say str password is going to be equal input box. Please enter your password. Okay. So this is the first time the user will try to enter the password. Now we get into the part that led to the problems that Kayla and Rahman talked about. Okay. We want, if the user enters this value incorrectly, we want to keep asking the user to re-enter the password. So we'll do the do while loop. So do while. Okay, repeat as long as the password does not match the secret. Okay, so as long as they don't match, we'll keep asking the user the same question again. So str password equals input box. You entered an incorrect password. Try again. Okay. Right. So if the password does not match the secret right here, in this case, we'll keep asking the user to retry and enter the password again and again and again. Okay, and then loop. Okay. And at the very end, if the user exits this, then he entered the password correctly. So I will display message box, something like welcome to my file, for example. Okay. Right. So this is very simple, right? Now there is a big problem with while loops. Okay, while loops only. For loops, there is no problem. While loops, there is a very bad problem that can happen in while loops. You can end up with something called an infinite loop. Okay, an infinite loop is a loop that goes and goes and goes and goes and goes forever. It never ends, and therefore it's going to cause your Excel to freeze, and you have to close Excel. This is why. Okay, and remember this lesson, guys, very carefully. Whenever you are using a while loop in your code, you have to save your file before you run the code. Okay, so before I try and run this code, I need to save it. So I will go to my file. I will go to file, save as. I will save it in my PC documents. I will call it Tuesday examples. Okay, and I will save it as XLSM. Remember, all macros must be saved as XLSM. So I will save it and save. Okay, and now I can run the code. If the problem happens, then it happens. So let's try if it's going to run successfully or not, and then I will show you the kind of problems that can lead to an infinite loop. Okay, so let's run this code. Okay. Please enter your password. I will enter it correctly the first time. So I will enter business 308. Welcome to my file, and it's successful. Now, if I keep entering something wrong, try again, try again, try again, try again, and then until I enter business 308, it will let me in saying welcome to my file. Okay. I want you guys to write this code and run it and make sure it's running before I show you the issues that may happen here. Okay. I'll give you a minute, and then I will make some errors in my code on purpose, and I will show you the results of these errors. Right, ready? Everyone ready to make the error? Okay. So I will make a very simple error. I will just make a typo in the do while. Here in this condition, I will just make a small typo. So I will forget this E before the T, for example. Okay. So I will delete this E on purpose. Okay. You don't, if you want to do this error with me, don't do it. Okay. So if you want to do it, save your file before you run the code, right? I did save my file, so I'm good there. So I will just delete this E, right? And now what's happened here? Now my secret is in a variable called str secret with an E. But here in the while, I am comparing the password to a completely different variable called str-secret. This one is different than this one, right? So I will end up with an infinite loop because this match will never happen, right? So now if I run my code, please enter your password. I will enter it correctly. Okay. No, correctly, yes. Business 308. So I entered it correctly, as you can see. Still, I'm being asked to enter the password. Well, I entered it correctly. What's going on? Right. And I ended up with an infinite loop. There is no way for me, okay, to do it except by canceling in this case, right? Right. Here I can cancel, but there are other examples that we will do together where you cannot cancel. Okay, so make sure, please, you remember to save your work before using the do while loop. Okay, now let's fix that back. Okay, so a very simple error like this one can cause you to redo all the work in your program. So remember this. Another problem is if I have a typo here in this str password. If I write str password like this without an O, I forgot this is a typo. Anyone can make a typo, right? And I run my code again. Same thing. I enter 1, 2, 3 first time. And try again. Whatever I enter, I will end up with an error. Okay, cancel. Okay, now I'm inside the loop, so it doesn't matter what I do. You can see that my Excel is frozen. It's frozen on this message box. So I have to exit. Keep trying to exit. Okay. Okay. Now it's exit. Right. So let me open the file again. Show the examples. Okay. Enable content. Yes. And then I will go to my developer and Visual Basic again, right? So again, you saw what happened now. My Excel completely froze. There was nothing I could do until I closed down Excel. So if you are on an exam and you make this error and you did not save before you try and run your code, you will end up with this kind of problems. You will lose everything you have done in the exam. So please remember to save as often as you can, especially if you are going to use the do while code. Okay. Now, did everyone try this code, guys? Did you try it? Did it go for everyone? Did anyone have any issues? Right. Right. So I have another question for you guys. Is this a realistic password program? What's wrong with this password program? Think about it. When you try and log into a system, to your email account, to your Canvas, to any system that you have been using at work or in education, compare the program what you do in this system with this program that we wrote. What is the difference? What's wrong with this program?
It doesn't have any condition, like normally it will ask that your password is limited to certain character, or it have to have like some special character in the password as well.
Yes, I will show that to you once we move to the advanced things using forms. So we'll do it after the break. But there is something else. If you
Like
give, yeah, yes, Jose, yes, Jose.
Oh, I was just gonna say like some have like a limit of how many times you can put your
Yes,
password.
exactly right. So in most programs don't allow you to keep trying to enter the correct password for an infinite number of times, right? You don't just keep entering the password forever. This can help hackers attack your system. If I am a hacker and I can try an infinite number of times to get into your system, then I will just keep trying with different passwords until I get in your system. Most of the applications we use in business limit the number of trials, right? You have to 3 trials or 5 trials only to try to enter the system. If you don't get the password right in 3 times or 5 times, then you are kicked out of the system and they tell you bye-bye, that's you are not going to be able to use this system, right? So do you understand this, guys? We want to add a limit to the number of trials for the user. We don't want the user to keep trying forever. We just want to limit him to 3 trials, let's say. Okay. So how can we do this? How can we limit the number of trials into 3? All right. Let's think about that logically. Okay. Let's forget about programming. In order to limit the number of trials for the user, let's go back to Excel and write it. So, okay. So this is the first password program. Okay. So now in the second password program, so password 2, we want to limit the number of password trials to, let's say 3. Okay, you can do it 5, you can do it whatever, that's up to you, but let's say it's 3. Okay. Right? In order to limit the number of trials, we have to keep track of how many times the user tried to enter the password. Okay, so we need to keep track of how many times the user tried to enter the password, right? And then we need to, if the user exceeds the allowed trials, which are the 3 trials, he is kicked out of the file. Okay, right? Let's make, okay, all right? So we want to keep track of the number of trials the user will be trying to enter the password, right? In order for us to keep track of how many times the user tries to enter the password, this is data, this is new data. So we need a new variable. we'll call this variable int trials. So int trials is a variable that will track how many times the user will enter the password. Okay, and then we will see how to add the code for checking if the user exceeded the number or not. Okay, so let's go back. We record a macro called password2, and we will try to include this functionality in password2. So I will record the macro. I will call it password2 and stop recording. Do you guys understand the logic here? We are trying to keep track of how many times the user has been trying to log into the file. This will be done by another variable called int trials. Okay, and then we will check if this int trials has reached a 3 or not. If it reached 3, then is out of here. Right? So let's do this. Okay. So I'll go to module 2 and I will write the code from scratch to make sure you guys understand the flow, and I will explain it as I go on. Right? So again, we are going to create the two variables, the secret and the password. So dim str secret as string, right? And then dim str password as a string as well. Okay, and then I'm going to create a variable to keep track of the number of trials. Okay, right? So I will create this as dim int trials as integer. Okay, so this is a variable that I will use in order to track every time the user enters the wrong password. I will increase this by 1, right? And then I will set my secret. So set my secret by saying str secret is equal to business 308. Okay, right? And then ask the user, where is my key? Ask the user to enter her password. Right? So str password is equal to an input box. Please enter your password. Okay. Now, here the user is going to enter the password for the first time, right? This is the first time we are asking, the user will be entering the password, right? So because this is the first time the user is entering the password, I'm going to set int trials to 1, because this is the first time the user enters the password. So this is his first trial. This is her first trial, right? So now we're going to say int trials is equal to 1. Is it clear so far, guys? Do you understand the logic so far? We are setting trials to 1 because this is the first time we are asking the user to enter her password. Okay, right? Then we start getting into the loop. So do until sorry, do while, not until, do while str password does not match the str secret, right? So this is the first condition. The password does not match the secret. This is what we did in the first example, but now we will add another example, another condition, which is that the trials are less than 3. Okay, so I will put int trials are less than 3. Okay. Right. So I added now 2 conditions. The first one is the one we used before. The secret is not equal to the password. And I added a second condition. we will repeat asking the user for the password as long as he did not exhaust his 3 trials. So as long as the user did not exhaust the trials, we will keep asking here to enter the password, right? So we say str password is equal to input box on password. Please try again. Okay, and then loop, right? And again, if the user gets out of the loop, we'll print the message box saying, welcome to my file. Okay, and that's it. Not that's it, we'll modify it a little bit more, but for now, I want you just to understand this logic. So here, I'm checking for either the user entered the, sorry, not either, for whether the user entered the incorrect password and she did not finish her trials. Okay, right? So my file is saved automatically, so you have to save it. So please save your file before we try this. Okay. Now I'll give you a minute. We'll run it and then I'll give you a minute. So I will run this. I will enter it correctly from the first time. Welcome to my file. Perfect. I will enter it incorrectly once. Try again. I will enter it correctly the second time. Perfect. I will try and enter the wrong password for 3 times. Okay. So I have an error here. You can see that I have a problem in my code. Okay. So again, I have to exit my file. Okay. And reopen it. Right. All right. Can anyone tell me what is the problem here, guys? What is the problem that I have in my code? There is a problem in my code that resulted in this error, infinite loop, when I try to enter the password more than 3 times. Does anyone know the problem here?
What was your question?
When I tried to run this code, I had a problem. I ran into an issue. The issue was I kept asking the user for the password more than 3 times. It passed the 3 times. So what's wrong here? What went wrong here?
Mine did the same thing. I think the condition is not specific. It
Yes.
led us to try it more than 3 times.
Yes. So the problem here, guys, is 2 things. Okay. The most important is, should I use an and or should I use an or? Should it be an and or an or? It's an and. This is correct, right? The problem is I forgot a very important line, and this is very common in using the do while loops. The problem I got is every time the user tries to enter the password, I am supposed to increment my trials. The trials should be incremented by 1. So after asking the user to enter the password, I should increment my int trials by 1 because the user is making another attempt. Right? The user is making another attempt here, so I need to increment my trials. So int trials equals int trials +1. Okay. So this is how you increment values in programming. You set the variable to be equal to the same variable +1. So I'm incrementing it by 1. Okay. Let's save our work and we will run it one more time. All right, so please enter your password. 123 123 123. Welcome to my file. So it's now working better. All right. Okay. Is it working for everyone? Did anyone get any errors? Anyone?
I think I tried mine more than 3 times and it still worked.
Okay. So this can happen if you did not set the trials to 1 here. Rahman, did you set the inter trials equal 1 before the loop?
Yes.
And then
Let me try it again and see if it works. Can you run yours one more time for us, Professor?
sure. 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. So it runs for 3 times.
What happens if you run it more than 3 times? What it should do?
I have to see your code. So share your screen with me. Let me have a look at it.
I was wondering if you're supposed to be adding +1 or -1.
No, +1. +1 right there.
I can't share my screen.
Okay, share your screen. Let me have a look at it. Ah, yes. Okay, team into trials. As integer. All right, so can you run your code and let me see the problem? It looks good. Enter any password, yeah. Okay. Okay.
It keeps going.
Again,
And-
continue.
And
No, no, enter the wrong password one more time.
It's
Okay. Again,
okay.
yeah. Right. So cancel now. Enter the right password. Enter business 308. Yeah. So the only reason for this is if you have an error, a typo in the names of the trials, and you do have an error. You see in the variables, you called it int TRAILS. In the condition after the end, it's int TRIALS. So you have a typo here. The I and the A are swapped. Yes, right? Now you can run it, it will work. Right, so typos are the most common problem. You need to be very careful in your variable names. Right?
Okay, it worked right now. Thank you.
No problem. All right, so let me share my screen again. All right, so even though it looks like the code is working, it is not really working. Why it is not working? Because this condition here, guys, when you exit this loop, when this loop ends, there are 2 cases where you exit this loop. Either the passwords matched, so we enter the correct password, or the trials are more than 3 times, right? Okay, and this is why we are getting this error. We are getting this problem 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. This is I entered the incorrect password for 3 times, and I still get welcome to my file. I'm not supposed to get welcome to my file. I'm supposed to get out of my file, right? If I enter the incorrect password, I need to kick the user out of the file. I need to tell the user you are not allowed to use the file. So how do we do this, right? Because we have 2 conditions inside the do while loop. We have 2 conditions. The first one is the password is not equal to the secret, and the other one is the trials is less than 3. Therefore, after the loop, I need to check why the user or why the loop exited. Is it because the user entered the right password, or the user exhausted her trials? Okay, which is it, right? So in order to check that, I need to have an if function after the loop. So after the loop, I will say if the user exited because she entered the right password, so if str password is equal to str secret, then I'm going to display a message, this message, which says welcome to my file. Okay, so I will display welcome to my file if the password and the secret are matching. Okay, else I will display a message box saying you entered the wrong password for 3 times and will now exit. And then end if. Okay. So again, why do I have to have this if statement? Because in the while loop has 2 conditions that are ended together, right? The password is not equal to the secret, and the trials are less than 3. So if one of these conditions is met, I'm going to exit the loop, but I don't know which condition. I'm not sure which condition caused me to exit the loop. So I have to check for one of them. If I exited the loop because the password is equal to the secret, in this case, I will display welcome to my file. Otherwise, I will display get out of here. Okay. You understand, guys, why we have this if? Because we have 2 conditions in the while loop ended together. Okay. So again, save your file and let's try this. So I will enter it correctly for the first time. 308, welcome. I will run it and enter it incorrectly for 3 times. You enter the wrong password for 3 times and will now exit. Okay. All right. I want you to try it, guys, and make sure you get it. This is the answer for question 12 on your individual project. Okay. Question 12. This is the password solution for it. Okay. There's something missing here, guys. Can anyone tell me what's missing from this program? Logically, okay, not coding, but from logical perspective. If you are using a system and you enter the password incorrectly for 3 times, what's wrong here? Okay. So let me ask it a different way. Let's say you are using Canvas and you enter the incorrect password for 3 times. Do you still get to use Canvas, or you are kicked out? You are not allowed to use it and your account is locked.
We will have an option to kind of reset our password or
Yes.
different, right?
So the problem with our code here, guys, is that if you enter the incorrect password for 3 times, you will get this message saying you entered it for 3 times, but you will not exit. You will still be able to use the file. So if I run this, I will enter it incorrectly for 3 times. You will now exit, but I won't exit or anything. I can still use the file. There is no problem here, right? So if I want to make sure my file is closed, if I want to make sure my file actually closes if I enter the password incorrectly for 3 times, what should I do? This is the vocabulary of Excel, okay? Shut down the file, okay? So there is a statement in Excel, in Visual Basic, that allows you to shut down Excel completely. This is the statement, workbooks dot close, okay? Workbooks dot close. This statement will cause your file to shut down, to close down, okay? So now our password is complete. So if I run it now and enter it incorrectly for 3 times, you entered the wrong passwords for 3 times and will now exit, press OK, and my file closes down. Okay. Right. So now you have done a complete code to have a password for your file. I want you to go through it slowly and try to and find out if you are good with it, if you are comfortable with everything in your code. If there is anything that is not clear, let me know and I will be more than happy to help you guys. Okay, so this is exactly the solution for question 12. Okay, and you will use this as well in your group project. So this is a very important piece of code. Okay, please make sure you understand it, because in the presentation, the final project presentation, it's very likely I will ask you about the code. What does this mean, or why did you do that? So you need to be very, and you need to understand the code very well. Why did I do that, and why did I do this? Okay. I'll give you a few minutes to grasp it. All right. Does anyone have any questions? Right. So I will stop here. I won't overdose you with anything more. We still have around 15 minutes, but we will be entering into the for loop. And shall we do it? No, I won't do it. I won't do this to you guys. Right. So we'll leave the for loop to after the break. So this is where we stop. Okay. So this is where we stop. Again, make sure you complete the, not complete, but you now can do questions 1, 2, 3, 9, 10, and 12 in the individual project. Do them before the exam and you should be okay. Right? Any questions? All right. Thank you, everyone. I wish you a great vacation, and I will be available during the break. So if you need me at any time, day, night, if you are coming from some trip or some somewhere, and you want to talk about anything related to this course, just drop me a line and I will be there for you. Okay. So thank you, everyone, and I wish you a great break. Have a nice rest of the week.
Professor.
Thank you, Professor. Have a good break.
You too.
Thank you.